Good morning, afternooning, whatever time it is for you right now, and welcome to EWOW 15B. I'm whitecyclosa, chronic coffee consumer, pessimistic pyramidal person, and EWOW editor, and half of your hosts for this episode.
And I'm telepoet, and I live in your walls. The prompt was to create propaganda for why we should despise an inanimate object. Of the 220 contestants eligible to respond, 213 participated, which means that the top 11 contestants prize, the top 109 survive, and the bottom 104 will lose a life.
We have received 1,171 votes from 246 voters, 23 of whom voted 20 times. A bit of a drop from last round, but we've still at least managed to have a solid VPR of 42.5. Voter shoutouts for this round go to JDude, XX Bombs Away XX, Ref32 Locked Out, Price Tag Fanatic, and Just Tunes. All of that anti-object talk must have really had voters debating on what's the most evil. So how about we see who came out on top?
The winning response won with a score of 79.76%, which is 6% higher than last round. The winner of today's episode also came close to top 10ing twice recently, and now confirms his legendary status by placing at the very top of the podium. None other than Snoozing Newt, whose response was, "Caution! Tape! Avoid this serial killer found near every homicide scene." And would you look at that? It's a non-pun winner that's not written by Tai. It's about time EWOW got its own leader of the pun resistance. The response that placed at the very second was Toffee Lime, who crafted a courageous call-out concisely contending kettle catcalling.
In third place, we have single round winner Real President of USA, and not much further, double round winner Tai Person. Both wrote about objects giving directions with not so helpful intentions, with PresentNet cleverly demonstrating how arrows mislead us, and Tai talking about how road signs use their instructions to create hive minds, makes them want to merge without looking. And turns out it's not just directional signs that are causing havoc. XX Bombs Away XX wrote about neon signs using gaslighting to manipulate the public. And to top off these glowing signs, glowering outlets bring us tons of negative energy. Way to kill the mood, cloudy skies.
Right below her, we've got Sinister Shovel spilling some tea about teaspoons, picking at our recipes, while Shadowflame warns us about some real bad apples. Between the kitchen, classroom, and doctor's office, it seems like nowhere's safe. Meanwhile, Ameliorator reveals the meddlesome marriage sabotage of weekly planners, while Jomatalk is a bit more literal with the culture shock that plug adapters bring upon an unsuspecting population. Rounding out the prize zone at 11th is Grammarly, who raises a great point about scarecrows. Maybe crows aren't the only ones who should be wary.
At 12th place, we say 07734 to Fish on the Internet, who unfortunately fell 0.5% short of the oh-so-desired prize region. Don't worry, you have my favorite response this round. And if that wasn't bad enough for students, JDude places right below her, mentioning how they're implied to be outright murdered by yearbooks. Or maybe worse, subject to the school's public restrooms. Ugh.
Terminatedslime places 15th, completing the triumvirate of signage responses in the top 20. And then 2 spots lower, we see Slime again, sandwiching Aaron with a similarly political response. Meanwhile, at the bottom of the screen, we see the piano guru disparage harps in a response featuring not 1, but 2 puns. Honestly, it just sounds to me like someone might have a little bit of an instrument bias. What about the pianos, guru?
Pancake and Topaz both talked about objects overselling themselves as better than they truly are, via Skyscraper's Tall Tales and playing cards Fake Worth respectively. And rounding out the top screen, we can also see soda bottles being guilty of censorship, with their habit of shushing anyone who tries to open them, as written by— oh, I wrote that. Right. Cool.
Moving past the teens, we see Catworld and One Night both reveal how objects supposedly dedicated to our everyday wellness only serve to make us stagnant and cynical. So if there's any takeaways to be had from this round, it's clearly that you should never exercise and never stay hydrated. We can also see IRDM and Mazwat get literal with their wordplay, from the language-wide elitism of dictionaries to the cursed asterisk. And just while we're on the topic of punctuation, I find it worth mentioning that both of these responses just so happen to be in the company of 13 others on this single screen alone that also used some form of quotation marks in their responses. Yellow Electric and Train Go Boom go on to warn us about the violent tendencies of food dispensing appliances. Pink Bunny Empire and Mario Fan both condemn the frequent vanishing acts of untrustworthy pairs of socks, and 40 Jumpman reveals the truth of the secret leaking pipes listening in on your home. I can attest, they make for some gossip-heavy neighbors.
As we dip below the 60% mark, we can see a couple more familiar frontrunners here. Live's frontrunner, Scorb, mentions how crosswalk signs secretly endorse horrendous accidents via subtle details in their imagery. At least there's likely hospitals nearby, unlike for pirates according to Convex Projects, who says they're constantly being misled by X's posing as red crosses. Goobry calls out glasses due to 2020 turning out far less ideal than they predicted, while Panini Pancake and Anepic both wrote about sports promoting bad drinking habits by skipping water in favor of alcohol. Good thing I don't need either of those to survive. It's also here where we can see both 4B hosts, Purplegaze and Dark, placing back-to-back, talking about thieving couch cushions and clingy band-aids respectively. You know, Ray Sandwich makes a good point about how Oxygen rigs multiplayer games for everyone. I knew Carrie's only breathe during prime numbers competition idea had some merit. And at the bottom, we have intersecting planes with a response very similar to Aaron's, but getting a score that's 8% lower. You have my condolences.
Scorb, or rather Losered, takes on Scorb's preference for ellipses this round while warning us against perms and conditions, while Water Chestnut and Nunku both shine a light on the shady gambling tendencies of toilets and credit cards respectively. Pray you never forget and leave your wallet in a bathroom. Chad and Dojebone 3 stand only with a single rank between them, while both warning of how compasses persuade and misdirect the masses, as Pokey Soda criticizes shipping boxes for giving directions that are too obvious by comparison. Meanwhile, Random123's response about Interstate's failure to render diacritics seems to have divided the voter base in two, getting a whopping standard deviation of 36.37%. Despite the polarization, he survives with more than a screen to spare.
Up next is our last screen before the danger zone. And we're still in the top 100. This competition's getting pretty tight, huh? Windex also wrote about compasses, always dodging whatever questions are asked by saying anyway, and is sandwiched between carbon fiber, Siktawabu, and cached credits, who've all used a pun about objects' two-faced nature. Really pushing the envelope with these responses, aren't y'all? Nihonium LTE mentions how easily TV remotes can turn days from watching Family Feud into having a Family Feud, and Meowie Cat describes napkins absorbing people's unhealthy eating habits to share their secrets with the world. Donuts, cookie dough, uranium, it's seen them all. And personally, I thought Julian SL's camera response was pretty underrated. I'm a sucker for responses that use good imagery. Also, if Hemo says that stationery wants people to pay per clip, then how did Clippy become a symbol for anti-corporate greed? I guess it's not impossible for objects to turn over a new leaf.
And at last, we've arrived at the final screen with safe contestants. Just to get them out of the way now, here's the double responses for this screen. That leaves us with 17 contestants remaining who managed to scrape past the death zone. And who's it gonna be? Jack 4 clinches the last safe spot. It seems like Meptune unfortunately couldn't repeat their round 13 feat and is the first contestant to lose a life this round. Better luck next time. If you've not seen your name up until this point, then the Life Lost Zone has been made your home this round. And to the 57 of you who have been eliminated as a result of losing your final life, thank you for playing. Making it this far was no easy feat, so be proud of your efforts and the scores you managed to achieve. Wait, stop, hang on. Both piano responses died? Back to back? Aw man, now we gotta find a new instrument.
No problem. No problem. I got it covered. Crap. Oh, God. Here we have our beautiful life counts after 15 whole rounds. The era of the amount of 3 lifers being more than the amount of 2 lifers has come to an end, mostly due to only one contestant, Losered, being brought down below the life decay threshold, leaving Scorb as the lone contender above 3 lives, meaning next round will be the end of the first phase of life decay. We hope to bring you more details about future game changes in 16A. Including DMPers, 57 contestants have lost the last of their precious lives, bringing the amount of remaining peeps down to 163. Which means if you're still in the game, congratulations! You're now officially in EWOW's top 1%. It must have been a wild ride for y'all to get to this point. Well, unless you're Orange Carry Superfan, who's now the one and only contestant to have still yet to place in the prize or danger zones. Some may call that boring, while I find it only slightly boring. We'll see how much longer he can walk that tightrope from here on out.
Here in the domain of normalized ranks, Tai continues to maintain a stranglehold on the frontrunner position, with second placer Scorb nearly 40% behind now. The top 12 continues to be mostly familiar faces, but with Remio, Greeny Guest, and Brandy leaving the board, we instead have Pink Bunny Empire, Sinister Shovel, and Terminated Slime coming in to make their leaderboard debuts. In the bottom half, Purplegaze, 4D Jumpman, and Pink Bunny Empire all have one performance in the death zone, which shows that even among the best, you can't win them all anyway. You can just win most of them. While we normally just show off the top EWOWers, let's also take a quick look at the standard deviation stats while we're at it. Unsurprisingly, Tai trudges on as the most consistent contestant remaining, but on the opposite end, far more surprising is Meaty Pickle, who continues to hang on still amidst his alternation between the death zone and the bottom 3 of safe for the last 6 rounds. Rolling along into rolling normalized ranks, Tai is, of course, crushing it as per usual, being less than 2% off of a rank trifecta this time around. Most people here are hovering around the 3 life mark, while nobody present has only 1. Oh, hi again, so closer. And for an interesting aside to close us out, now as of EWOW 15B, Jack 4 is now the only remaining contestant to have not placed in the top 10% in any episode. Will they be able to break the curse next round? I suppose we'll just have to see.
We've spent a lot of time in EWOW telling each other jokes and making each other laugh, but we can't truly appreciate joy without sadness. So let's change it up a bit. The 16th EWOW prompt is, tell a sad story only using words with 4 letters or less. Numbers count as letters, and don't worry, the submission portal will let you know if you've got an invalid word. As for why you can only use a maximum of 4 letters per word, let's say that you're sobbing so hard while telling your extremely sad stories that you can only get out short words in between gasps for air. If this seems hard, don't worry. Here's an example response for you all. He held her hand. It's all that was left of her.
The deadline to submit to EWOW 16 is
October 27th, 11:59 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time.
That gives you a week to submit, and as always, submit using the EWOW.zone website in the description below. And good luck to you for this technical round.
So yeah, that's pretty much all we have for this episode. Despite some issues, it's really been a pleasure hosting, and being able to work alongside my fellow EWOW dev teammates is always a blast. This has been Cyclo and Telepo, and we'll see y'all in EWOW 16A. What? Not all these episodes have to end with some sort of bit.
That leaves us with 17 contestants remaining who will manage to scrape down the piss. I've been at work for 8 hours, I can't speak.